Welcome to Can I Has Buff, a Warframe series that takes older weapons and puts them under the spotlight for review and suggests buffs to make them better. In this episode, we will be taking a look at the Miter, a slash-based saw blade launcher with high status but no critical stats. The Miter was introduced on August 9, 2013 in their Operation Arid Fear update, which was the introduction to the Sandy Grenier settlement tile set as well as the Twin Gremlins pistols. Dealing 250 total damage on fully charged shots, with the large majority of it being slash, the main advantage of the Miter is the frequency of slash procs, which will bleed out the enemy over time. Although it must be noted that the slash procs themselves can be minor at higher levels even with maximum damage. It is fairly slow to charge, but can launch quick shots with a pull of the trigger with a loss of damage and status. Shots will also bounce off walls a couple times, which makes it better in tighter areas. It cannot deal critical hits, so users must rely on raw damage for the most part. Despite dealing fairly high damage on charged shots, ferrite and alloy armor resist slash by 15 and 50% respectively. The higher the armor of the enemy, the less damage it's going to deal despite having plus 25% damage against Grenier flesh. This becomes an issue past level 40 Grenier, in which heavy units will take very little damage from fully charged shots, but is slightly countered by the slash procs themselves, which ignore armor. This means slash stacking and increasing status duration of status procs can alleviate the issues against armor. The weapon is fine as it is, but it just never deals as much damage as it should be doing. And I am here to give a few suggestions on how to fix that. Right off the bat, I suggest a new unique mechanic to charge shots that would not only make it very fun to use, but also give it a buff without boosting the weapon itself. Fully charged shots will now rip into enemies' flesh, and because it has high RPMs still in the blade, it will sit on that spot on the enemy and tear into them, causing one slash proc a second for 3 seconds before losing its speed and stopping. During this 3-second burst of damage, the enemy is stunned similar to impact proc animations. Only the initial hit will be able to proc elemental damage, however, so it does not make it too overpowered. The Grenier have found a way to angle the blades on the Miter, causing them to boomerang instead of bounce, causing the blades to strike the same enemy a second time after passing through them. Upon going through the enemy, the blade will angle back like a boomerang and will seek that spot again, hitting them before fizzling out. There is a catch, however. While the innate punch-through of charged shots is enough to seek through the enemy and hit it again, it is not enough to pass through multiple enemies on return. In other words, if the blade is coming back to hit the enemy again, and it instead hits a different enemy, it fizzles out on that enemy instead. Unless you add punch-through, in which it will go through all enemies on return, similar to a blade. And there you have it, a vicious saw blade launcher that cuts and maims hordes of enemies, but tends to cut short against armor. Do you also think the Miter deserves a buff? Are my suggestions good ideas? Be sure to let me know in the comments below, and as always, stay tuned for the next installment of Can I Has Buff.